$12 million vanished from secure casino vaults. Yet no one hacked a system, touched a card, or broke a single rule. Phil Ivey and Kelly's son walked away with the biggest legal casino heist ever seen by spotting a defect invisible to the naked eye and persuading dealers to follow a series of puzzling requests. What loophole let them win without technically cheating? How did two high rollers expose the industry's secret weakness, forcing global casinos to change forever? The full step-by-step playbook starts here. Casinos are built on the promise that the house always wins. Every chip, every velvet rope, every security camera is a reminder of that certainty. Yet, in the summer of 2012, that certainty shattered. In a single, unbroken run over the course of just 2 nights, one of London's oldest gaming houses watched $12 million slip through its hands. The sum did not vanish in a flash of violence or a digital heist. It drained away, hand by hand, in a game designed to give the advantage to the house. No alarms blared, no pit boss called security. The losses were so steady, so methodical, that at first they looked like a statistical fluke, a rare but possible streak of luck. Inside the private rooms, the atmosphere was hushed but electric. The casino's most trusted dealers followed every rule, shuffled every deck, and responded to each request from the table with practiced ease. The chips stacked higher, the bets grew larger, and the tension in the room thickened. By the end of the second night, the numbers were undeniable. The casino had never seen a loss on this scale before. In its entire 178-year history, no single session had come close. For the executives, the impact was immediate and deeply unsettling. $12 million represented more than a bad night. It was a blow to the foundation of the business. The loss was enough to trigger emergency meetings, legal reviews, and a full audit of every procedure on the floor. Staff whispered about the win behind closed doors. Regulars speculated about a new breed of gambler with skills the casino could not match. The event was not just a financial shock. It was a public embarrassment, a headline that would ripple through the gambling world and beyond. The money itself was only part of the story. What truly rattled the casino's leadership was the method. No one had ever seen a player or a pair of players walk away with a fortune this size without breaking a single written rule. The losses forced the industry to question its own assumptions about security. If the house edge could be flipped so cleanly, what else might be vulnerable? The scale of the defeat made one thing clear. Something fundamental had changed, and the old playbook no longer applied. Phil Ivey's reputation reached far beyond the poker table. By May 2012, he was a legend in the gambling world, a 10-time World Series of poker bracelet winner, feared and admired for his nerve and his uncanny ability to read a game. Casinos welcomed him with open arms, offering private rooms, sky-high betting limits, and every courtesy reserved for their most valued guests. For Ivey, these privileges weren't just perks, they were tools he could use to bend the casino environment to his needs. Kelly's son, on the other hand, moved through casinos with a different kind of purpose. Born Chung Yin Sun, she had spent years studying the fine details most gamblers never noticed. While others watched the faces of the cards, Sun watched the backs. She trained herself to spot the tiniest imperfections, microscopic shifts in a pattern, a border just a hair wider on one side. Where others saw luck, she saw opportunity hidden in plain sight, an uncanny eye for detail. Their paths crossed in May 2012 in a hotel suite, where Sun laid out her theory to Ivey. With the right deck, the right conditions, and the right requests, the house edge in Baccarat could be flipped. Ivey, brought the bankroll and the name that could open any casino door. Sun brought the method and the eye for detail that could turn a minor manufacturing flaw into a winning strategy. Together, they formed a partnership built on trust and calculation. Ivey's presence at the table guaranteed that even the most unusual requests, Mandarin-speaking dealers, specific shuffling machines, and certain lighting, would be granted without hesitation. High roller status meant no one questioned the need for privacy or why a guest like Sun might quietly observe from the sidelines. Sun's expertise in edge sorting had been honed over years of practice and personal setbacks. She knew how to spot a deck worth exploiting and how to convince a dealer to rotate cards under the guise of superstition. Ivey understood how to escalate bets at exactly the right moment, never tipping his hand, always cool under pressure. Their skills weren't just complementary, they were interdependent. Without Ivey, Sun's requests would have raised suspicion. Without Sun, Ivey's fame would have been just another asset for the casino to manage. But together they built a system that operated in the narrow space between luck and intention, where the rules of the game could be used as a shield instead of a barrier. The partnership that began in May 2012 would soon test the limits of what casinos believed was possible. In a world built on certainty, Ivey and Sun were about to prove that even the smallest detail could turn the tables. Every playing card is supposed to be perfect. In reality, even the highest quality decks carry small, almost invisible flaws, especially when thousands are printed and cut at industrial speed. In 2012, the decks used at Crockford's and Borgata came from Jamaco, a respected manufacturer supplying casinos across the world. These cards looked identical to the naked eye: deep purple backs, repeating diamond patterns, crisp white borders. But under close inspection, a subtle asymmetry appeared. On one long edge, the pattern bled just a fraction further than on the opposite side. The difference was tiny, barely 0.3 of a millimeter, thinner than a strand of hair. Yet for someone who knew what to look for, this offset was enough to tell one edge from the other, even when the cards were stacked tightly in a shoe. Card printing experts describe how these flaws creep in. The printing process lays out hundreds of card backs on large sheets. When the sheets are cut, even a slight misalignment, a blade shifted by the width of a fingernail, can cause the pattern to run off center. The result is a deck where one edge shows more of the design and the other less. Quality control standards allow for a small margin of error, but in a game where millions ride on the turn of a card, even a 0.3 millimeter shift can become a lever for those with the patience to notice. Most players never see it. Dealers and pit bosses are trained to watch for marked cards, not for the ghost of a pattern hiding in plain sight. Under the glare of casino lights, the difference is nearly impossible to spot, unless you are looking for it and know exactly how to use it. On a busy night, with cards sliding in and out of the shoe, the asymmetry might as well be invisible. But for Kelly Sun, these flaws were a map. She could identify the slight bulge in the diamond motif and the way the white border thinned out on one side. Once high-value cards were rotated, their unique edges became a silent signal, impossible to detect unless you examined the deck under a magnifying glass or tracked every card as it moved through the game. The flaw itself did not guarantee a win. What mattered was control over how the cards were handled, how they were shuffled, and how they were positioned in the shoe. Without the ability to dictate orientation, the asymmetry would be lost in the shuffle. But with the right sequence of requests, the flaw became a tool. It was an objective defect, a manufacturing oversight that turned the ordinary into the extraordinary. For the casino, It was a ticking time bomb built into the very fabric of the game. Casino protocol is built on ritual. Every shuffle, every cut, every turn of a card is meant to remove any trace of bias. But when a high roller requests a small change, even the most seasoned dealer will often oblige. At the baccarat table, Ivey and Sun began with a simple, almost superstitious request. After each round, could the dealer please rotate certain cards 180 degrees before placing them back into the shoe? They framed it as a gesture for luck, a nod to tradition. The dealer, eager to keep the VIPs happy, complied without hesitation. What looked like harmless courtesy was in fact the linchpin of their strategy. Each time a card was turned, Sun tracked the orientation, mentally mapping which edges belonged to high-value cards, the 8s and 9s that could swing the outcome of a hand. The flaw in the card's back pattern only mattered if it could be preserved round after round. That meant controlling not just which cards were rotated, but how the entire deck was handled from that moment on. To hold this advantage, Sun and Ivey needed more than just a cooperative dealer. They needed the cards to remain in their marked orientations through every shuffle and deal. So they made another request: use the automatic shuffler, not the hand shuffle. The shuffler, unlike a human, would mix the cards thoroughly but never change the way they were facing. The rotation of each card, now a silent signal, would survive the shuffle untouched. Each time the deck returned to play, the high-value cards could be identified by their unique edge, still facing the direction Sun had chosen. Dealers, trained to accommodate high roller quirks, carried out these instructions as part of the service. They rotated cards as asked, loaded the decks into the shuffler, and kept the game moving. No one in the room, not the pit boss, not surveillance, suspected that these minor rituals were anything more than a gambler's superstition. Yet every step was calculated. The sequence, rotation, shuffling, preservation, transformed the deck into a coded system, legible only to those who understood the map. Once the orientation was locked in, the edge sorting method was fully armed. From that point forward, Sun could read the shoe at a glance. The dealer, acting in good faith, had unwittingly become the keeper of the signal. The casino's own routines, meant to guarantee fairness, were now preserving the very flaw that would cost them millions. The technical toolkit was complete. All that remained was to execute the play, hand after hand, as the advantage quietly shifted across the felt. The private salon at Crockford's is a world apart from the casino floor. Walls lined with dark wood, plush chairs, and a single table set for high-stakes baccarat. On the first night, Ivey and Sun took their seats with a £1 million bankroll. The opening bets were cautious, £1,000 per hand, just enough to blend in with the usual VIP rhythm. Dealers, handpicked for their discretion and fluency in Mandarin, followed every instruction. At Sun's gentle prompting, cards were rotated after each round, always with a nod to luck, never to suspicion. The automatic shuffler hummed quietly, preserving the orientation of every card. Hour by hour, the pace changed. As the deck settled into its new order, Ivey pressed his advantage. Bets climbed to £5,000, then £10,000, then £50,000 per hand. Sun's eyes flickered over the shoe, reading the edges, signaling when the odds favored a heavy strike. Ivey's demeanor never wavered. He joked with the dealer, sipped tea, and watched the chips flow his way. The staff, trained to keep the atmosphere light, offered fresh drinks and polite encouragement, unaware that every small courtesy was now part of a carefully engineered system. By midnight, the stakes had soared. Ivey pushed to £100,000 per hand, then £150,000, always at moments when Sun's silent signals confirmed the shoe was loaded with high-value cards. No one in the room raised an eyebrow. For Crockford's, this was standard treatment for a player of Ivey's stature. The pit boss hovered at a distance, checking the numbers, but found nothing amiss. The dealer, steady and professional, dealt hand after hand with practiced grace, oblivious to the invisible map Sun had drawn across the deck. The first night ended with a string of wins so consistent they looked like a statistical outlier. The second night, the pattern repeated. Ivey and Sun arrived early, requested the same dealer, the same shuffler, the same deck. The casino obliged. The bets started small, ramped up as the edge sorting process locked in, and exploded into six-figure territory as the advantage became certain. Over 2 nights, the pair amassed £7.7 million, more than $12 million at the time. The chips stacked so high that casino staff had to fetch new racks from the vault. Each hand played out with the same quiet efficiency. No drama, no protests, just a relentless accumulation of winnings. Dealers later described the sessions as unremarkable, almost routine. Yet behind the calm, every detail had been orchestrated. The requests, the timing, the bet escalation, all designed to slip beneath the radar. The flawless execution left no trace of wrongdoing, only a record-breaking loss. For Crockford's, the aftermath was a scramble to make sense of what had happened. For Ivey and Sun, the London windfall was proof that their method worked, not just in theory, but in the heart of the world's most exclusive gaming rooms. Atlantic City's Borgata Hotel, Casino and Spa had seen its share of high rollers, but few arrived with the leverage Phil Ivey commanded. In October 2012, Ivey and Kelly Sun stepped onto American soil with a blueprint that had already drained millions from London. The plan did not change, only the setting. Borgata's private baccarat rooms, lined with gold accents and thick carpets, became the new arena. The casino welcomed Ivey with a deposit of $1 million, rolling out every courtesy in the VIP playbook. High-limit tables, a Mandarin-speaking dealer, and a fresh supply of purple Gemmaco decks, all requests granted without question. The staff, trained to accommodate eccentricities, saw nothing unusual in the demand for a specific shuffling machine or the insistence on a particular lighting scheme. The session stretched across 4 visits, each building on the last. Early hands started small, with bets hovering around $10,000. As the edge sorting process took hold, the numbers climbed. By the final session, Ivey was wagering $100,000 per hand, pushing the table's limits. Kelly's son, seated quietly beside him, watched every card, tracking the orientation with the same precision she had honed in London. The familiar ritual played out, cards rotated for luck, shuffler engaged, deck order preserved. Each round, the edge grew more certain. Borgata's pit bosses, accustomed to the rhythms of luck and loss, began to notice something off. The winning streaks were not just improbable, they were relentless. Over the course of the sessions, Ivey and Sun amassed $9.6 million in winnings. The chips piled up so quickly that the casino's cash reserves had to be replenished mid-session. Dealers whispered about the run, but with every request cloaked in superstition and every action technically within the rules, no one intervened. The mechanics of the scheme remained invisible to most. The real work happened in the margins. A card turned here, a shoe loaded there, a silent nod passed between partners. The edge sorting method, perfected in London, proved just as effective under the neon lights of Atlantic City. Borgata's surveillance teams reviewed footage, but nothing in the tapes showed a violation. No marked cards, no sleight of hand, no collusion with staff. For Ivey and Son, the Borgata sessions were a demonstration of adaptability. Different jurisdiction, same vulnerabilities. The system that protected the house in theory was, in practice, open to anyone who understood its blind spots. The scale of the win forced Borgata's executives into emergency meetings. Compliance teams launched internal reviews, searching for answers. On the floor, rumors spread among staff, a statistical fluke or something more. As the casino tallied its losses, the question lingered in the air. How could the rules be followed so closely, yet the outcome be so devastating for the house? The moment the numbers stopped making sense, the casino's internal machinery snapped into motion. First came the payout freeze, a standard move when a win threatens the house's bottom line. The chips were no longer just gaming tokens, they became evidence, locked away in the vault as compliance teams assembled. Every hand played, every card dealt, now fell under a different kind of scrutiny. Surveillance officers, trained to spot sleight of hand and collusion, combed through hours of footage. The baccarat table, once just another high roller stage, became the focal point of a forensic review. Cameras had captured every gesture, every request, every card rotation. Compliance managers flagged the sessions for anomaly. No physical tampering, no marked cards, no signals between player and dealer. Yet the pattern of wins was impossible to ignore. The system flagged a statistical outlier, but the tapes showed only routine. Dealers rotating cards for luck, automatic shufflers humming, Ivey and Son calmly placing their bets. The decks themselves became crucial artifacts. Instead of returning them to the floor, staff preserved the shoes intact, sealing them for later inspection. Security protocols demanded a chain of custody, each deck logged, boxed, and stored under lock and key. The cards would be examined for marks, but even under magnification, nothing appeared out of place. The only clue was the faint asymmetry in the card backs, a detail invisible to the untrained eye. For the casino's investigators, it was a puzzle. How could such a minor flaw be leveraged so dramatically? Dealers and pit bosses were called in for interviews. They described the sessions as ordinary. No one reported suspicious behavior, only a series of unusual but not unprecedented requests. The Mandarin-speaking dealer recalled the insistence on card rotation, the preference for the automatic shuffler, and the precise way chips were stacked. Everything had seemed like standard high-roller eccentricity. No one had reason to refuse. Compliance teams drafted incident reports and compiled timelines. They mapped out the sequence of requests, the escalation in bets, the exact moment when the edge sorting process was likely locked in. Internal memos circulated between security, legal, and executive offices. The evidence pipeline grew. Surveillance logs, sealed card shoes, dealer statements, session transcripts. Each piece pointed to a pattern, a methodical approach that never crossed the line into open cheating, but left the house at a loss for how to respond. As the investigation deepened, casino lawyers prepared formal complaints. The case would soon move from the gaming floor to the courtroom, but for now the task was clear: build a record strong enough to justify withholding millions in winnings. The casino's reputation, its procedures, and its ability to control risk all depended on what the evidence could prove. Every decision, what to freeze, what to preserve, how to interpret the data, would shape the next phase of the fight. Courtrooms in London and Atlantic City became the final battlegrounds for the winnings. In 2014, the High Court in London weighed the facts of the Crockford's case. Phil Ivey's legal team argued that edge sorting was nothing more than sharp observation. No cards marked, no rules broken, every request granted by the casino itself. The casino's lawyers countered that the game's spirit had been violated, that the requests for card rotation and shuffler use were not innocent superstitions, but calculated maneuvers. Judge Mitting delivered a verdict that stunned the gambling world. Even without physical tampering, Ivey's strategy was deemed civil cheating. The court found that using the dealer as an unwitting agent to manipulate the deck crossed a legal line. The £7.7 million remained with Crockford's. The judge wrote that the advantage gained was so substantial it amounted to interference with the game itself. On the other side of the Atlantic, the Borgata case unfolded with its own legal logic. The New Jersey courts did not accuse Ivey and Son of criminal fraud. Instead, they found a breach of contract. The argument hinged on the rules of the house. By requesting certain conditions, Ivey and Son had not played the game as intended. In 2016, Judge Noel Hillman ordered Ivey to repay the casino $10.1 million, including interest. The ruling stopped short of calling the pair cheaters in the criminal sense, but it found that the manipulation of game procedures, however subtle, voided the agreement between player and casino. The distinction was technical, but the outcome was clear. The winnings had to be returned. Legal experts dissected the split. In the United Kingdom, the bar for civil cheating is lower than for criminal dishonesty. The court did not need to prove intent to deceive, only that the conduct undermined the fairness of the game. In the United States, the focus was on the contract, whether the player's actions meant the casino never truly consented to the risk. Gaming attorneys pointed out that neither jurisdiction had rules designed for this kind of edge. The law had not caught up to the tactics. The same set of facts could be read two ways. One judge saw dishonest interference, another saw a technical breach. For the gambling industry, the rulings were a warning shot. Casinos realized that the line between advantage play and cheating was not as clear as they had believed. The courts had spoken, but the logic left a gap, one that could only be closed by rewriting the rules of the game. As the dust settled, casino executives and regulators began to overhaul procedures, determined to ensure that no player could use the house's own routines against it again. Casinos once trusted that a good deck and a sharp dealer were all the protection they needed. After the Ivey and Son saga, that confidence vanished. Behind closed doors, industry leaders met with card manufacturers and security consultants, determined to shut every door the duo had quietly slipped through. The first step was the cards themselves. Giamacco, the company whose decks had been used at Crockford's and Borgata, faced pointed questions about quality control. New contracts demanded stricter tolerances. No more asymmetric borders, no more patterns that could be read like a code. Symmetry became the new standard. Card backs were redesigned, with patterns checked under magnification before ever reaching a casino floor. Shuffling procedures changed too. Automatic shufflers had once been a convenience, a way to speed up play and reduce human error. Now they were re-engineered to randomize card orientation as well as order. Continuous shuffling machines became the norm at high-stakes tables, breaking any pattern that could be tracked from round to round. Dealers received new training. Polite refusals replaced the old habit of granting every VIP request. No more rotating cards for luck, no more honoring superstitions that could mask a deeper strategy. Even the language in player contracts evolved. High roller agreements began to include explicit bans on requests that could influence the handling or orientation of cards. Some casinos required guests to acknowledge in writing that advantage play techniques, such as edge sorting or card steering, or any manipulation of procedure, would void winnings. Industry insiders describe the months after the lawsuits as a period of quiet panic. Surveillance teams upgraded their protocols, watching not just for marked cards or collusion, but for patterns in player requests and betting behavior. Compliance departments worked with mathematicians to model new vulnerabilities, running simulations to spot edge cases before they could become headlines. The ripple effect reached beyond baccarat. Blackjack, poker, even roulette tables saw their own security reviews, as operators asked whether other games might hide similar flaws. These changes did not just protect the house, they redefined the boundaries of play. The line between skill and manipulation became a subject of debate in gaming commissions and law schools. Was it cheating to spot a flaw the casino failed to fix? Or was it the casino's job to close every loophole, no matter how small? Experts still argue both sides. Some see Ivey and Son's strategy as a masterclass in observation and psychology, a legal exploit that exposed the casino's blind spots. Others call it a breach of trust, a calculated abuse of hospitality and tradition. The aftermath left a permanent mark on the industry. Decks are now designed to be flawless. Shufflers scramble not just the cards, but their orientation. VIPs sign contracts that leave no room for creative advantage play. The edge that once tipped the odds is gone. What remains is a question that lingers over every velvet table. When does skill become deception? And who gets to decide where that line is drawn? Casinos now invest millions to guard against flaws invisible to most, yet every system still hides its own blind spots. As technology evolves, so do those who search for the next edge, proving that the line between skill and deception never stays still for long. In a world built on risk, certainty is always the rarest card. What would you have done in their place? Let me know in the comments.